So I live with complex PTSD, but I also have children. You hear me talk about them sometimes, but I don't really address, or I haven't really addressed, what it's like to live with PTSD and worry about your kids. Um, are they doomed? Will they get mental illness? And if they do, will it be the end of their world? If they do get mental illness, will they be victims for their whole life? At what point do we allow the reality of their situation impact their real life? There's a lot of questions to unpack today, and that's what we're going to do on STP. Let's go. Welcome to Shattered the Podcast. STP is the story of my journey from the depths of mental illness to a place where I could live again. So I'm calling this one, I have complex PTSD and I have kids. Are they doomed? First off, complex PTSD. This is a relatively new diagnosis that kind of expands on the fact that you can have PTSD at different levels. And complex PTSD generally is understood to be PTSD with a number of different symptoms, different types of symptoms, but also it comes from prolonged exposure to abuse, assault, trauma, or trauma. That's my down and dirty definition. That's not the practical, actual definition. I could give you that, but it bores me just saying it. But that's what it kind of, to me, sort of evens out to be. All right, so let's talk the elephant in the room, and that is my kids. My daughter was 2, maybe 3, when I was first injured. I'd had mental health symptoms before, but I'd been convinced by my bosses that I needed to go into a very dangerous group house for people with disabilities, and do the job that I no longer did, which was work face to face with the clients because of my experience and because of the fact that I knew this client. This was a mistake in the strongest kind of terms of what a mistake can be. I was attacked by a man in the house. He had a knife, which he shouldn't have had. Staff members were negligent, and I ended up broken. So what's a 3-year-old to do when even her mum says, my husband went to work one man, came back another? I alluded to it last week. Meredith wrote a story to share with carers. And she said something which she'd never phrased it like this for me before, but I became the worst parts of myself. All the parts of me that weren't her favorites became who I was in its entirety. It's a hard thought to think about. But today is about kids. Now, I come from a family that has a predisposition to mental illness. It's hard to admit that. My grandfather on my maternal side most likely had undiagnosed PTSD from his service in Vietnam. My father served in Vietnam, no mental illness. His parents, sickness. Their parents, well, one of them served in France and got a few different kinds of diseases, which may have had an effect on the health of his family moving forward. But what does this mean? Well, the reality is that two of my daughters have fairly significant mental health issues. My daughter, my oldest daughter, saw me at my absolute worst. She saw all those terrible parts of me. My youngest daughter, who my wife and I thought was probably the most well adjusted person in our family, ended up being bullied to the point where she tried to take her own life. It is impossible for me to conclude that I had nothing to do with both of their mental illness. I can't. Do I wish that they had a different father? Well, sometimes, yes. Told my wife a few times I wish she had married somebody better. She deserves more. So let's talk about our kids. The worst of times for me was when I was distant, when I appeared angry, and I was angry. Angry at myself, angry at the world, angry at the guy that had assaulted me, angry at my workplace, angry at my union, angry at the lawyers because even though I was clearly damaged, there was no financial recompense at all. Didn't get to sue anybody, didn't get any kind of payouts. Just had to live our lives. And my kids saw it all. Saw my despair, saw my anger, bore the brunt of my isolating myself, not being available to them getting used to basically having a father that was absent emotionally. It was hard stuff, harder than I thought it would be. But let's talk about now. I have three beautiful children that know that I love them. I had to get very comfortable explaining to my children my behavior was my behavior. It was never their fault. They were never the cause of any of those negative behaviors. I had to get very comfortable apologizing to my children, being humble in front of them. I mean, my dad did this to me. When he made a mistake, he let me know. He would say he's sorry. It's one thing I've done with my kids is I've made sure to let them know that I am sorry for the things that they've seen, the things that I've done. But now I know, I'm confident that they know that I love them. They're very aware that sometimes dad just checks out for a little while because he has to. There are certain things that we don't do as a family, certain actions that I don't take in the house. Like, for instance, if we're doing cleaning and there's a lot of cleaning that needs to be done, I cannot oversee that cleaning. I don't necessarily get upset, but I go into a work mode, which my kids see as me being upset, being angry. So I can't do that. I have to set it. And then basically my wife chases them up and I just be the big stick at the end where the job's done properly. No, if not, do them again. But I don't engage. I don't involve myself in that process. I can't. My daughters will probably definitely be sitting in psychiatrist offices for most of the rest of their lives. And I know that I'm going to come up a lot. What I try to be is an example for my kids now of what you can be on the other side of the worst of your mental illness. Try to let them know that whatever mental illness they struggle with, it's not the end of the world for them. Mental illness is not a destination for them. It's just a sign point along the way, something that you notice while you go on your journey. It's not a place where you stop and rest and, well, I have mental illness, so that's it. Nope. It's a signpost along the way. Maybe even a short diversion. Need to take some time out to take care of your mental health. My advice, if I had any, would be, as always, to seek help quickly. If you are struggling with mental illness, if you're struggling with anger, talk to somebody fast. Your kids have no choice about who their dad is. And we can choose to let a few bad incidents that happen in the worst of our lives color the rest of our relationship, or we can try to move past it, not ignoring it, not in pretending it didn't happen, but embracing it and saying, when you are older, when you're no longer a child and you have kids of your own and you make a mistake, be humble and be kind. Now I'm going to have to do something, the Savo, which I don't normally do. I'm just going to have to spend some time making sure that I'm kind to myself. So I talk about this stuff today and I'm feeling pretty low. But the way I'm going to be kind to myself is I'm going to say, you know what? You did some bad things. You put your kids through some horrible stuff. But you are doing your best now. Now that you have capability and space, you're giving them as much as you possibly can. And that's not nothing. Yes, my kids might have some bad memories of when they were little with me, but maybe they'll also have some good memories. Memories of dad trying, memories of dad overcoming his mental illness to be better. Being a dad that doesn't give up. Maybe I can be a good example for them. I hope so. Don't know what you are hoping to get out of today. I've got to go do some self-care. I've got to go be kind to myself. I've got to switch off. I've got to stop thinking about this stuff. And got to move past this. It's okay. Everything's all right. You're going to be good. You are not the worst. You are not a piece of crap. That's what I'm going to be saying to myself for the rest of the day. Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for joining us on Shattered the Podcast. I'm Mark. Special thanks to my producer, Meredith Brosnan, and also to Torian, Kevin, and Lorraine. And we can't forget the amazing band Adelaide, who let us use their song as our theme. For more information, check us out on all your socials, STP Shattered the Podcast.